We are just not fast enough. That's the summary. We don't have that pace in the car. Mercedes were quite a bit faster in terms of, quite a bit better in terms of degradation compared to us. The soft, we couldn't keep them for long enough, but they could. So that was a surprise, but yeah, the pace was just not there, and it's just very disappointing when I think you do everything quite well, but it's only P4.
I was going to say, I mean, tyre-wise, we heard you on the radio at one point, strategy probably didn't really come into it that much in the end once you had that safety car, I guess. Changed everyone's plans.
Yeah, I was in the opinion of doing something different at the beginning, which I think was the right thing. It ended up not being the right thing because there was a safety car that nobody could have known, but at the end, there's no regrets in a race like this, just we need to find some pace.
Ferrari promised to fight for the podium in Bahrain, but Charles Leclerc lost it in the final laps. What went wrong? Why is Leclerc so frustrated with his car? Today we tell you the harsh reality the Monégasque driver is experiencing, his devastating diagnosis of the SF25. The 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix looked different for Charles Leclerc since Saturday. The Monégasque driver had achieved a solid qualifying, placing the SF25 in third place. George Russell's penalty allowed him to start from the second row. Expectations were high. Ferrari arrived with a significant update package, and for a moment, it was thought a podium was possible. But the reality was different. What seemed like an opportunity ended in a bitter fourth place, not because of driver or strategic errors, but because the car simply couldn't deliver. And Leclerc said it clearly, "We're just too slow." A phrase that not only reflects frustration, but also a brutal dose of realism rarely heard in Formula One. Leclerc explained that in the early laps they tried to push, and although there was an improvement in the second stint, this was only caused by the degradation of their rivals, not by any real pace from the Ferrari. In the end, when everyone was on equal footing on the same compound, the red car once again showed its fundamental limitation: lack of pace. It's not that Leclerc's performance dropped, it's that the car couldn't take any more. The toughest moment came at the end of the race, when he lost the podium in the final laps. He tried to defend, he fought, but he knew he had no way to respond. "I tried everything until the end," he stated. And most revealingly, whatever strategy you choose, you're always at a disadvantage if you lack pace. That phrase says it all. When the car doesn't respond, it doesn't matter when you stop, what tires you use, or how many laps are left. There are no miracles. The interesting thing is that Leclerc doesn't hide behind excuses. He doesn't blame the team, the weather, or external factors. He simply admits that fourth place is a true reflection of where Ferrari is today. It's a double-edged statement. On the one hand, it shows honesty and maturity. On the other, it makes it clear that the team has no way of competing against Red Bull or McLaren in the race, no matter how close they are in qualifying. That gap between what is promised on Saturday and what is delivered on Sunday is what frustrates Leclerc the most. It's like climbing a mountain and seeing the top, but knowing you don't have the necessary team to get there. And that helplessness was evident in his statements. Bahrain wasn't just any defeat, it was a public snapshot of the car's structural shortcomings. Ferrari arrived in Bahrain with a new floor design. It was the most anticipated update package since pre-season. The factory had been working against the clock. The parts arrived just in time. And on paper, they promised to solve part of the aerodynamic deficit that has plagued the SF25 since the start of the year. But when the checkered flag fell, the answers were different. What Leclerc hinted at and then openly confirmed is that the improvements weren't enough. Because the car's problem goes beyond a simple component. It's not a question of balance or setup. It's a fundamental issue. The car lacks downforce. He said it bluntly, "We need more grip. In qualifying we can hide it a little, but in the race when you don't have grip, there's simply nothing you can do." That phrase is key, because it shatters an illusion. The illusion that Ferrari is competitive when the clock is ticking over a single lap. But a race is much more than that. The problem worsens lap by lap. When a car doesn't have adequate downforce, it's not just slower in corners. It also wears down the tires more. This forces the driver to manage their pace and avoid overheating, losing time while he takes care of the compounds. And so begins what Leclerc called a snowball effect. A small initial deficit turns into a chain of multiplying problems. The lack of downforce doesn't just affect pure performance. It also limits strategic options. With a car like this, every stop is a risk. Any attempt at undercutting or overcutting is neutralized by the car's inability to maintain a consistent pace. It's like playing a game of chess with incomplete pieces. In simple terms, Leclerc's car doesn't have the tools to compete at the highest level. He can qualify well. He can defend in the early laps. But as soon as the race enters its critical phase, he runs out of arguments. And that, in a season where McLaren and Red Bull are executing with surgical precision, is a testament to mediocrity. Leclerc has clearly identified the root of the problem. It's not about changing the race approach, nor about adjusting the strategy. The SF25 needs a profound transformation, because if there's no downforce, there's no pace. And without pace, there are no podiums, no victories, only frustration. This isn't a destructive criticism. It's a technical diagnosis. Cold, precise, realistic. The car needs grip. And until it has it, everything else is cosmetic. The package of improvements Ferrari brought to Bahrain wasn't a simple patch. It was a statement of intent. New aerodynamic parts, especially a complete redesign of the SF25's floor, arrived ahead of schedule. The technical team had worked with absolute urgency. Maranello needed answers. So did Leclerc. And for a moment, optimism crept into the garage. But that optimism was short-lived. From the outside, there was talk of progress. It was repeated that the updates were working. Even within the team, some, like Lewis Hamilton, took a more positive view. But Leclerc wasn't swayed. He responded frankly, "The car's potential remains the same. We're just not fast enough." That straightforward statement left a clear mark, because it speaks to a disconnect between what Ferrari expected and what the track revealed. The improvements may have helped find a little more balance, perhaps better handling in certain corners. But ultimately, the structural problem remains. Ferrari tried to improve a car that was already born with profound limitations. The aerodynamic updates didn't change the underlying philosophy of the SF25. And if the concept isn't competitive at its core, any evolution is insufficient. It's like patching up a damaged engine. It may look new, but it still doesn't work. Leclerc understood this quickly. In qualifying, he looked competitive, yes. But when the real moment came to measure sustained performance, everything went back to square one. No race speed. No grip in the key phases. No chance of going toe-to-toe with McLaren. Because the improvements didn't transform the car. They only masked its shortcomings. Added to this is a key detail. Bahrain, due to its characteristics, wasn't the best circuit to accurately measure the impact of the improvements. The abrasive asphalt accelerated degradation, long straights followed by slow corners. All of this penalizes a car that doesn't have enough downforce. Leclerc warned, "It's probably not the best track to get the most out of this new update." And that opens another door. A door to doubt. Will these parts work better in Saudi Arabia? On smoother circuits, where aerodynamic efficiency in high-speed corners is prized. That's the hope. But until that happens, Bahrain leaves an uncomfortable reality. The improvements weren't enough. The silent fear within the team is that expectations have outstripped execution. That the gap with McLaren, far from narrowing, will remain. Or even go bigger. Because while Ferrari takes small steps, others advance with giant leaps. And in Formula One, whoever stands still loses. Leclerc didn't want to sound defeated. But he didn't fool himself either. The updates arrived. They were installed. They were tested. But at the end of the day, the SF25 is still not up to scratch. When a car isn't performing, there are two options. Wait for the factory to deliver miracles or take risks at the moment. Charles Leclerc chose the latter. Quietly, race by race, he has begun to radically modify his car's setup. These aren't minor adjustments. They are technical decisions that break with conservative logic. Extreme setup changes. Little explored directions. Risky solutions. All in pursuit of one thing. Extracting the impossible from a car that isn't up to scratch. Leclerc acknowledged this after Bahrain. For the past 3 weekends, he has been testing radical setups. It's not something to be taken lightly in Formula One. Because when you push the limits of a car, stability, tire degradation, and even performance consistency come into play. But for Leclerc, there's no other way out. What was there wasn't enough. Standard is no longer enough. And if Ferrari can't give him a winning car, then he'll try to build one from behind the wheel. The results of these decisions are starting to show. In qualifying, he's once again ranked among the best. It's no coincidence. It's a sign. The setups he's exploring seem to give him more control, more confidence, more speed. But that performance hasn't yet fully translated into the race. Because the underlying problem, the lack of downforce, remains. And there's no setup that can completely correct it. Leclerc, however, isn't expecting miracles. He's expecting signs. And what he's found in these last few races gives him one. There is something that can be done. Maybe not to win today, but it is to build a different foundation. One that allows for performance to be found where before there was only frustration. This extreme approach is a personal bet, because not all drivers are capable of going beyond the comfortable setup. Most adapt to the car. Leclerc is trying to reconfigure it from within. He's pushing the limits of the SF25 to find answers that the team can't yet give him. And in that process, he's also making a difference inside the garage. Because while Ferrari is evolving collectively, Leclerc is leading a silent revolution from the track. He doesn't shout it, he doesn't impose it. He does it lap by lap, session by session with every kilometer. These kinds of decisions build character. And also reputation. They are the moments that separate the drivers who expect the car from those who transcend it. Leclerc isn't racing just for points. He's racing in a direction, for a sign that there's still a way forward. And if Ferrari decides to follow him, that personal risk could become the foundation for a larger recovery. The race in Bahrain wasn't just another result for Charles Leclerc. It was a mirror. An accurate reflection of the reality Ferrari is experiencing today. The illusion of a promising qualifying was shattered under the pressure of a long, demanding, and honest race. Because the track doesn't lie. And what it revealed is clear. Ferrari, despite its efforts, remains one step behind. Leclerc, far from hiding, was direct. He identified the problem. He accepted it. And he got to work. He didn't wait for instructions. He didn't look for excuses. He adjusted his racing style. He forced extreme configurations. He sought millimeters of performance where no one else could see them. And he continues to do so, knowing that every point can be the difference between competing for survival or preparing for a comeback. But this isn't just about Bahrain. It's about a pattern, a trend that repeats itself. The car still lacks pace. The improvements aren't enough. McLaren is ahead, comfortable, setting the pace for a season that's just beginning but is already sending very clear messages. Amidst this scenario, the question isn't whether Leclerc has the talent. That's not in doubt. The question is whether Ferrari can keep up with him in time. Whether the technical work will match the effort he's already putting in from the first meter of each race. And now it's your turn. Do you think Charles Leclerc is doing everything possible to reverse this situation? Do you see signs of hope in his performance? Or do you think Ferrari has already missed the boat on this season? I'm interested in your opinion because the story of this season doesn't write itself. Leave me your comment. Share this analysis if you found it fair and insightful. And if you want to follow the real pulse of Formula One with context, emotion, and unfiltered analysis, this channel is for you.